I want you to picture something for a second.
Yeah.
Imagine you were living in a house where the walls are, I don't know, constantly shaking. The noise level is always at a 10.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone around you, whether it's a boss, a partner, or just, the general vibe of the internet, is demanding your attention, your energy, and your justification for simply existing.
Right.
Your instinct, your absolute biological survival instinct is to pack a bag, walk out the front door, and move to a cabin in the woods, somewhere with zero Wi-Fi and even fewer people.
It's the universal fantasy. Escape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here is the central paradox of today's deep dive, and it's the problem most of us actually face. How do you leave that kind of manipulative, abusive, or self-entitled world without actually packing a bag?
Yeah.
How do you escape the noise when you can't physically leave the building because, well, you have a mortgage or kids or a contract?
That is the profound question we are tackling today. We are looking at a really fascinating text titled Best Guide for Leaving the Manipulative, Abusive, and Self-Entitled World Alone. And despite the title, I think it is important to clarify right up front. This is not a travel guide. It's not about geography. It is a manual for psychological preservation.
Right. It's about leaving a dynamic, not a location. And I have to say, reading through this source, it felt less like a self-help article and more like a strategy guide for reclaiming your own brain while the war is still going on outside.
That's a great way to put it. The mission of this deep dive is to understand that leaving isn't about distance, it's about a shift in mechanics. It is about moving from a state of external validation, where you are constantly checking to see if you are okay based on the world's reaction to internal referencing.
Okay, let's unpack that, because internal referencing sounds like a superpower we all need. But before we get to the solution, we have to look at the trap.
Right.
The source lays out exactly how this manipulative world operates. It says this world survives on 3 specific things: reaction, argument, and emotional extraction.
Right. Think of those 3 things as fuel. If you are in a toxic workplace, a bad relationship, or even just scrolling through a particularly hostile social media feed, the system functions because you engage with it.
It needs you.
It needs your reaction. It needs you to argue back. It needs to extract emotion from you. It's like a machine that only runs on human frustration.
So the thesis here is pretty bold. When you disengage from those loops, the system loses access to you. You starve the beast.
Precisely. And that brings us to the first phase of this process, which the source identifies as the withdrawal of participation.
Okay.
And the first step is completely counterintuitive for most of us. In fact, when I read it, I felt a little attacked.
Same here. Step 1, stop explaining yourself.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Just stop explaining. But think about how difficult that actually is in practice. Just try doing that for 24 hours.
It's incredibly hard. Because when someone misunderstands us or accuses us of something or twists our words, our knee-jerk reaction is to clarify. We want to say, no, that's not what I meant. Let me explain.
We assume that if we just provide better data, they will understand.
That right there is the trap of misunderstanding. We explain because we operate on a logic-based model. We think, if I give you the correct information, you will come to the correct conclusion.
Which works with reasonable people.
Right. If I tell a friend, hey, I didn't mean to be late, they usually say, okay, cool.
Exactly. But the source argues that in a manipulative or abusive world, you aren't dealing with a lack of information. You are dealing with a commitment to misunderstanding.
Committed to misunderstanding you.
Wow.
That is a terrifying phrase, but it explains so much.
It explains why you can talk for hours and get nowhere. Because the person or the system, well, they profit from the distortion.
How so?
If they misunderstand you, they keep you on the defensive, they keep you off balance. Abuse and manipulation thrive on emotional exhaustion. If a system can keep you explaining, defending, and proving your worth, they keep you tired.
And if you are tired, you're easier to control. So when I'm spending 45 minutes crafting the perfect text message to explain why I set a boundary, I'm not actually solving the problem. I'm feeding it.
You're providing emotional extraction? The source is very clear on this. Manipulation thrives on endless clarification. As long as you are clarifying, you are still in the game. You are still negotiating.
You're essentially saying, please agree that I'm a good person.
Exactly. And the manipulator's saying, dance for me a little longer and maybe I will.
That is chilling.
Yeah.
But it explains why you feel so drained after those interactions.
Yeah.
You've just paid a massive tax of emotional labor for a transaction that was never going to happen.
Right. The source lists things we think we owe people, but actually don't. It says you do not owe continuous defense. You do not owe emotional labor. And this one is my favorite. You do not owe proof of your humanity.
That is a heavy one. Proof of humanity.
It's that feeling that if I just explain nicely enough, they'll see I'm a human being with feelings. But the source is saying, stop. We're trying to use logic in a game that isn't played with logic.
Treating you like a person doesn't serve their goal.
No, control serves their goal.
So the first step of leaving is to realize you cannot outreason someone who's committed to the chaos. You have to stop playing that game entirely.
Exactly. And this leads to some practical diagnostic work. The source suggests asking yourself some pretty hard questions to catch yourself in the act.
Right. The questions are, where am I reacting automatically? Where am I seeking validation from those who cannot give it? And where am I tolerating disrespect, hoping it will change?
Those questions are the circuit breakers. They help you identify where you are still participating. And that's the key word, participation. Leaving isn't just about being quiet. It's about removing your contribution to the dynamic. You are withdrawing the fuel source.
So let's say we managed to do that. We stop feeding the beast with our explanations and reactions. Suddenly we have this void. We aren't looking outward for approval anymore, so where do we look? This is where phase 2 comes in, the shift to internal referencing.
This is the pivot point of the entire strategy. If phase 1 is stopping the bad habit, phase 2 is building the new muscle.
Okay.
Most of us are raised with external referencing. Imagine you're a thermometer. You just reflect the temperature of the room.
So if the room is angry, I'm anxious. If the room is happy, I'm relieved.
Exactly. And if the room or your boss or your family is manipulative, the temperature is swinging wildly all the time. So you're a wreck.
Right.
Internal referencing means you become a thermostat. You set the temperature. You decide what is true, what is right, and what your value is, independent of the feedback you are receiving.
The source has this powerful line that I underlined 3 times. Manipulative systems collapse when you stop negotiating your identity.
That is the core of it. Think about an argument where someone is trying to make you feel small. Usually you fight back to prove you aren't small. You say, I'm not selfish. I really tried to help. You are negotiating. You are handing them the gavel and asking for a verdict.
But if you were internally referenced, you just think, I know who I am.
Precisely. You take the gavel back. You aren't asking, am I okay? You are stating, this is who I am.
The negotiation is over.
It is. And when you stop negotiating, the manipulator has nothing to grab onto. It changes the power dynamic instantly. It's like trying to grapple with smoke.
This also has a practical side, which the source calls reducing exposure. It's not just a mental shift, it's a behavior change.
Right. You don't have to attend every fight you're invited to.
I love that. You are invited to an argument. RSVP, no.
Exactly. The source explicitly says you do not have to consume every outrage. You do not have to correct every falsehood. This is about curating your inputs. If you are trying to switch to internal referencing, you have to protect your environment. Limit who gets direct access to you.
It's like a diet. If you're trying to get healthy, you don't keep junk food on the counter. If you're trying to get mentally free, you don't doom scroll or answer every baiting text message immediately.
It's creating a buffer zone so your internal voice can actually be heard over the noise.
Okay, so we are withdrawing participation. We're referencing internally. Now we have to talk about the B word. Boundaries.
Yes. The concept everyone loves to talk about but hates to implement.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Usually when I think of setting a boundary, I think of a big dramatic moment. I sit someone down, I have a prepared speech, I tell them how they hurt me and what the new rules are. It's a whole production.
And that is the common mistake. The source corrects this thinking immediately. It says boundaries do not require speeches, they require consistency.
Boundaries do not require speeches. That is such a relief, honestly.
But
why do we feel the need to give this speech?
Because the speech is just another form of explaining. It's another attempt to get them to agree with your boundary.
You want them to say, oh, I see why you need that? That's reasonable.
Yes. But if they are manipulative, they will just argue with the speech.
Oh, so you're too sensitive? Or, oh, so you don't care about the team?
Exactly. Now you're back in the trap. A real boundary isn't a request, it's a gate. The source gives some scripts that are almost painfully short.
Like what?
No, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me.
And that's it. You say the phrase, and then what?
And then, this is the crucial part, you disengage. You don't say, I'm not available for that because I'm really tired and last time you did this, it made me feel bad. No, just, I'm not available.
The power is in the silence that follows.
The power is in the action. If you say no and then stay and argue about why you said no, you haven't set a boundary, you've opened a debate.
Right.
Step 5 is about realizing that your no is a complete sentence. If you put a lock on your door, you don't stand there explaining to the burglar why the lock is necessary. You just lock it.
That brings us to phase 4, and I think this might be the most overlooked part of leaving a toxic situation. We've talked about the mind and the mouth, but we haven't talked about the body. The source calls this the physiology of leaving.
I'm so glad this is included in the source material. We often think of manipulation as an intellectual problem, a battle of wits. But it's a physiological problem.
How so?
If you have been in a manipulative environment, whether it's a high-pressure job or a chaotic family, your nervous system is constantly activated.
You're running on adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine loops. You're hypervigilant.
Constantly. You are always standing for threats. And here's the danger, and this is a critical insight. When your body is used to high alert, chaos starts to feel familiar.
And to the human brain, familiar feels like safe, even if it's dangerous.
Correct. So when you actually do step away, when you stop arguing, stop checking for updates, stop reacting, your body might actually panic. The source warns that calm is unfamiliar at first.
That is wild to think about. That peace can feel like anxiety. Or even boredom.
It absolutely is a withdrawal.
Yeah.
You might find yourself unconsciously trying to stir things up or checking up on the person you're trying to distance yourself from just to get that hit of intensity.
Your body is asking, where is the tiger? I know the tiger is here somewhere.
That's it, exactly.
So how do we fix that? How do we heal the nervous system so we don't sabotage our own peace?
The source suggests reinvesting in what it calls grounded reality. And frankly, it sounds a bit boring.
The best cures usually are no magic pills.
No magic pills. It involves step 7 and step 8, breath regulation, physical movement, silence, but also practical things like building stable routines and financial independence.
It says abusive systems weaken when you reduce dependency on them.
That's the key leverage. If you are financially independent, you don't have to tolerate the toxic boss. If you are emotionally independent, you don't have to tolerate the toxic partner. You are building a life that stands on its own legs.
It's reinvesting in reality. While the manipulative world is spinning stories and dramas, you are over here doing the dishes, going for a walk, saving money, and breathing.
It's anchoring. You are teaching your body that safety is better than excitement. You are retraining your nervous system to tolerate peace. You are widening your window of tolerance so that you don't need a crisis to feel alive.
Retraining your nervous system to tolerate peace. And I'll write that down. That brings us to the final phase. We've done the work inside. We've calmed the body. Now, how do we interact with the world outside? Because we can't just become hermits.
No, and the source is very clear on this. Leaving the manipulative world alone doesn't mean isolation. It means selective engagement.
Step 9 says choose your scale. You don't have to save the world.
That is a massive pressure release. You don't have to fix the toxic culture of your entire industry. You don't have to heal your entire extended family.
Right.
You just need to create a coherent microenvironment.
A home, a circle, a workspace.
Healthy systems grow outward from stable centers.
Yeah.
If you can create a pocket of sanity in your immediate life, your home, your close friends, your desk at work, that is enough.
But how do we decide who gets into that pocket of sanity? Because I feel like sometimes my radar is broken. I let the wrong people in.
Well, the source gives us a checklist for discernment. This is the difference between being guarded and being discerning.
Okay.
The source provides a green light list. You participate where 3 things exist: respect, accountability, and reciprocity.
That's the checklist. Respect, accountability, reciprocity.
If those are present, you engage, you open up, but you withdraw where? Distortion is constant, harm is normalized, and this is the big one, where growth is refused.
Growth is refused. That's a big one. We waste so much time trying to help people grow who have zero interest in growing.
And the source says we have to accept that. Leaving means accepting that not everyone wants coherence. Some people profit from the distortion. You cannot have a reciprocal relationship with someone who is playing a zero-sum game.
So the result of all this, when you stop explaining, start internal referencing, set boundaries, and heal your body, is not that you are alone in a dark room.
No.
It's that you are walking through the world with a different filter.
The world feels different because you stopped feeding the parts that harm you. It is discernment. You are refusing to be recruited into dysfunction.
Refusing to be recruited. I love that image. The chaos is trying to draft you into the army, and you're just burning the draft card.
Precisely. You stay where you are. You might even keep the same job or live in the same town, but you have stopped playing their game. You are in the room, but you are not of the room.
It really challenges the fantasy of the fresh start, doesn't it? We always think, if I just move to a new city, everything will be different.
But if you take your broken boundaries and your addicted nervous system to a new city, you'll just find the same chaos there.
You will recreate the cabin in the woods to be just as stressful as the house you left.
Peace is a discipline, not a destination.
So to recap this roadmap, because we've covered a lot of psychological ground today,
We have.
we start by starving the beast. We stop explaining and stop reacting to the bait. We shift our validation from external, asking, am I okay, to internal, stating this is who I am. We set boundaries that are short, consistent actions, not dramatic speeches. We do the boring physical work of calming our nervous system so we don't crave the drama. And finally, we curate our reality engaging only where there is respect and reciprocity.
That is the roadmap. It's moving from being a character in someone else's chaotic story to being the author of your own stable reality.
It's empowering stuff. Before we wrap up, though, I want to leave our listener with a final thought based on everything we've discussed. We've spent this whole time talking about how to protect ourselves, but there's a secondary effect.
The systemic effect.
Right. These manipulative systems, whether it's a person or a whole culture, rely on your reaction to exist.
Oh.
They are parasites in a way. They need your outrage, your defense, your engagement to survive.
They do. It's their oxygen.
So consider this. By simply becoming unresponsive to distortion, by refusing to argue, and by investing in your own stability, you aren't just protecting yourself. You are, in your own small way, causing the machinery of manipulation to starve.
You are removing the battery from the machine.
So the question I want you to carry with you is this. What happens to the game when you are the only one who knows the rules have changed?
That is the question that changes everything.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Take care of your nervous system, and we'll see you next time.